Hey, good morning, Hacksters. Welcome to Tuesday. Today we have Danielle Boyer on the show. Oh my gosh, you're an amazing person. Danielle creates educational robots for teaching Indigenous languages to kids and also low-cost, affordable robots and all this kind of. You co-founded the STEAM Connection, and I'd love to hear about that. Good morning, Danielle. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing great. How about you?
Solid. Yeah, it's a Tuesday, which is my favorite day of the week because I get to do
Feels
this.
like a Monday, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah. I didn't get a lot done yesterday, so I'm kind of in the same boat. But um so tell me a bit about first off the Steam connection. Well, which came first, the robots or the Steam connection?
So to properly answer that, I think I have to backtrack like 11 years now, which is weird because I'm 21. So saying
Wow.
that is like that's half my life, right?
Yeah.
But I was 10 years old and I saw that my little sister was interested in like science and tech and stuff, but we couldn't afford a lot of the opportunities that other kids were participating in. And so I remember I was at Costco one day and I saw animal puppets on the shelf and I pulled my mom aside and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have an idea." And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "What if I taught an animal science class?" She's like, "Dude, you're 10 years old. What are you talking about?" And I was like, seriously, I could do this. I could get together books and coloring sheets, and like I can teach this class. And
Yes.
we were at a homeschool group at the time, so I was able to teach 25 kindergarten students over a semester,
Oh my
which was
gosh.
really cool. And it opened my eyes up to education and the role that I could play in it, even at a young age. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many educational inequities and there's so much inaccessibility. Like, we can do something about this. And
Mm.
so I got to public high school and I joined a robotics team. And that was where I kind of learned the skills and was kind of like, robots can do so much. Robots are the perfect educational tool. They teach electrical engineering and computer science, they teach so many things. And so after graduating, about a year after graduating high school, I founded the STEAM Connection when I was, let me think, I was 18. And in the same month I founded the STEAM Connection, I also launched a robot named Ecker, which we'll talk more about.
Mm.
And I also launched 6 children's books. So that was a busy month for me.
How did I not know about these children's books? Oh my gosh. So first up, the Steam connection. What's the whole idea with that is around the robots specifically?
Yeah, so the STEAM Connection is a charity that works to reduce technical inaccessibilities, technical education specifically. So that could mean everything from resources being too expensive to resources requiring like internet access when many communities don't have access to that,
Mm.
making sure that resources are environmentally sustainable, things like that. And so we make a bunch of robots, we design them, we manufacture them, and then we give them away for free. We're entirely student and minority run. And yeah, it is so much fun. I get to teach classes and work with kids and robots every day.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And you mentioned environmental sustainability, which comes back around to one of your robots as well. So there's like a bunch of different robots that you've built for this. We got EKGAR,
Yeah, a ton of
SkoBots.
robots.
Let's just start at the beginning. Tell us about EKGAR.
Ecker is my oldest robot, and it stands for Every Kid Gets a Robot, and it's a robot that costs less than $20 and goes to kids for free. I actually have one right here. I actually have
Ooh.
hundreds here because we are working on an order right now for UCLA and their American Indian Science and Engineering Society chapter. So I'm making 230 right now, and I'll show them off in a little bit. They're everywhere. But
Uh-huh.
Ecker is a robot that costs less than $20, and it teaches kids kind of the basics of robotics. So how to wire a robot, how to program a robot, a bit about 3D printing, mechanical engineering. And as you can see, it's got some cool hexagon wheels, and it's just a
Mm-hmm.
simple little robot that I designed in the CAD software SolidWorks, and they're 3D printed, and so I love them a lot. I know for all the nerdy people watching this, you'll be curious about how I control this. It's controlled with an ESP32 development board,
Hmm.
and I have a basic like Adafruit motor controller, and it's a simple little robot. But we've sent out over 8,000 of these for free.
Amazing. So, the ESP32, are you encoding that in Arduino or CircuitPython or
Yeah, Arduino IDE.
cool? Um,
The kids
oh,
love
that's
it.
uh-huh. Does it have like a wireless connection?
Yes, it does. I love that. It's a little bit different from the Arduino Nano in that it actually has like Bluetooth capabilities and things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really like that. And I pre-program all of them because many of the communities we work with don't have internet access. So the kids can wire the robot and actually start running it and having it drive around without having to connect to it through the internet with the pre-programmed loop. And that has made the robots a lot more accessible and fun too.
That's super cool. And do you use the wireless, for example, have you thought about writing an app for it, or have you done that?
Yeah, I use like the Blink app. It's a really
Cool,
great resource
yeah.
where you can just like drag around and make your own little apps. I love it.
Drag and drop programming, so accessible, so good. You mentioned that you are partnering with UCLA right now, and on the surface, all of these bots are directed toward teaching children, but are these going to adults as well?
So we have sent robots to college students and tribal colleges and things like that, but often the students themselves are putting on youth programming efforts. They're wanting to teach
Mm,
affordably for their communities. And so they're putting on classes, they're connecting with teachers. And so most of my job is just supplying robots to these people. And I normally like send out class sets of like 50 bots. We have a lot more like interest in the robots than I'm able to actually supply. So these 230 robots I'm making right now is the biggest order I've ever made at once, which is insane. And
wow.
a couple of years ago, we made 150 with Dassault systems, so SolidWorks, and we got to send them all out to the community, and that was really awesome too.
That's amazing. Are these funded, like you just said, with Dassault Systems, aka SolidWorks, is it usually sponsored by a company, or like how does the
Yes,
Steam kind of, oh,
yeah, usually sponsored. We get a lot of really awesome donations from places like Ulta Beauty, and we got some funding from MIT. And so that funding we're able to bring in and give the robots away for free. And we also partner with different organizations. But at the end of the day, every robot goes to kids for free, and they get to keep them too, which is cool.
yeah. So, if someone is interested in their company or university or whatever sponsoring some of your robots, how would they go about that?
They can
Or
learn
these
more on our
partnership
website.
forum? Mm.
Yeah, they can learn more on our website at
Mm.
www.steamconnection.org. That's the first time I said
Awesome.
it without saying too many W's.
Yeah, there is a link, as always, in the description below. You can find a bunch of links to different stuff that we'll be talking about today, including Danielle's personal social profiles and the Steam connection on social media and on their website. This is so cool. Let's dive back in. There's so many different robots to talk about, and we only have like
Yes.
45 minutes. So, so this is the first one that I met. We got to hang out a little bit in San Francisco, and I got to actually meet a SkoBot, and it blew my mind. Because not only is it an awesome little robot, but it's doing some really cool stuff. So tell us about your SkoBots, please.
Yeah, so this is our latest robot. It's a robot that I designed with two of my mentors who are also Indigenous. We all are from different tribes, so it was really special to be able to do. And I actually have one right here. Well, I have a
Oh,
bunch.
yes.
But the SkoBots are wearable Indigenous language learning robots. And I have been seeing wearable robots like yours for ages. And I finally was able to make one. And it was
Yes.
so cool. It was such a great experience because, sorry, my AirPods keep falling out. But it was such an amazing experience because I didn't know if I was able to do it. I didn't know if I had the skills to be able to do it because I've been out of school for a while now. I run the company every day, so I haven't finished a degree. So I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I know how to do this. But I put a lot of learning in, and we were able to create this. And it's a robot that's run on an Arduino Uno,
Hmm.
and it's wearable with a GoPro strap, which is super cool. I will show you actually. So this is the GoPro strap, and what's really neat is that it just connects right on underneath it.
Mm.
And we print all of the robots in like out of recycled PLA, which is really neat.
Yes.
But then the robot just goes right on. And we design these for our students. And right now it's a prototype, but we're going to be rolling it out real soon. And it lights up and it speaks. As you can see, there's a PIR sensor here, so it senses
Hmm.
motion and it lights up and starts speaking. We rolled it out at the American Indian Science and Engineering Society National Conference and also at their powwow. And so we were able to see little kids interact with the robots, and it was really, really special. They're all decorated in very different ways to reflect our cultures. And mine is pink because I love pink. But it's also got like sparkly florals and stuff, which I'll show in a minute, but super
Mm.
cute.
Yeah, and you're often wearing, things that are sort of, like, sparkly or, especially you wear and promote a lot of Indigenous fashion and jewelry as well on your social media, which I think is
Yes.
awesome, and also it brings this, like, really unique, uh, aesthetic, like, "Check out these 3 different ones." So these are your
Aren't they
co-founders, is
cute?
that right? They're so
Not our
cute. Oh my
co-founders. These
gosh.
are just my co-designers, and they're also my mentors, which is awesome.
Ah,
Rob on the left, he is a mechanical engineer. His on Instagram is virtual flat CAD. He's an influencer actually,
mhm.
and he does everything SolidWorks and CAD. And then Dr. Josh on the other side of me, he is a speech language pathologist. And
Wow.
so we were kind of able to take our very different perspectives and work and kind of combine that. Dr. Josh is a developmental scientist at Johns Hopkins University and does a lot of advocacy with Indigenous children's books. And we just ran a successful fundraiser with those. But yeah, we were able to combine our skills and create something that we're really proud of. And it's just so cool because I would never think that we'd get together and make a wearable robot, but we did it. And it was actually inspired by the talking Elmo.
Ah!
So yeah.
Tell us more about that. So, or can you turn it on and give us a demo at all? I know that sometimes there's,
So
like,
it has
technical
no guts in
challenges
it
when you're
right now
Yeah, I
because
know.
I was a bit of a dummy. I've been filming a documentary, and I took all the guts out for filming, and then I didn't put them back in. So
Mhm.
I'll actually show you though the skeleton of the robot,
Oh,
which
yes.
is this. And so each part is like 3D printed separately, and this is what the head looks like, or as I call it, the little skull. And then this is like what the base looks like. It has SkoBots on it. It has some beading. It has some hexagon holes in it for like the sound to go through. And then I
Oh.
also have my circuit guts in here, which is what I was filming with. Um, it is a mess, but as you can see, I have lots of
Mm.
things.
Can you
We
walk us
also
through
put
the
Oh yeah, yeah. We also put a Bluetooth speaker in it sometimes to play like music, which is a bit simpler.
Mm.
Got my Arduino Uno. I've got my speaker. I use one of those big speakers. And
Mm.
also, this is my favorite part. So we have a micro SD card reader and also a micro
Uh-huh.
SD card where we upload all of the files that the robots are speaking to it, and then we just connect that to the circuit. So we got it right here and our PIR sensor. I'm sure all of you know what those look like. My
Mhm.
favorite thing, the baby breadboards, as I call them, or at least the students like to call them.
Those are so good.
I know, right? So yeah, that's the main part of the circuit. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else going there. I designed the circuit, so I'm trying to trying to remember. I also have these mini screwdrivers, which I wanted to share. They're like the
Oh,
sewing machine ones, and I want to make earrings out of them because they're so cute.
they are so
But
cute. I
yeah,
love that
so
idea.
right? It's so cool. But yeah, the robot is really awesome because the circuit's not too heavy. It's pretty simple to code, pretty simple to adapt. And something that we use for the ring light kind of effect that we've been liking is the Circuit Playground Express from Adafruit. And we just stick a battery pack on it and let the kids program it with their own like patterns for the lights.
Ah!
And that's a really easy way to kind of have its own simple circuit and have it be battery powered and separate from the audio, which I really liked. And it's very simple for the kids. It's also very cute. And I now have a bunch of them. And so it's really exciting.
What kind of iterations are you doing? Like, is it like you build, like, 150 of them after you did that last year? Did you
Mhm.
decide that there were some tweaks that you could make to make it go together more easily or to reduce the cost or
So it costs less than $100 to make right
Mm.
now with the Arduino Uno and everything like that. We use a Bluetooth speaker. It scales down the price significantly. These straps, it kind of adds up because they're $15 on Amazon, and I'm actually working on designing my own.
Nice.
The iterations that we've been thinking of is like material of what the robot itself is going to be made out of. So not necessarily the shape or anything like that, but um, kids drop things all the time.
Mm.
And so this being made out of PLA, it's not necessarily strong enough to withstand some of the younger kids. So we have been looking at scaling it down, making it smaller. So if it does drop, it kind of has a less likelihood of breaking. And we've also been thinking of doing it in felt. which is interesting. And
Oh,
your
yeah.
robot's made out of felt, isn't it? Or is it cardboard?
Yeah, Fenrir up there is well, his sort of oh, he's all smashed against the wall right now. I was
Oh
moving stuff
no,
around, but oh no. Well,
the
anyway,
robots
he's
have a
made out
mind of
of
their own.
I know. So he totally is made out of felt, and his like base prototype was made out of cardboard. So the felt is in some places kind of just glued onto the cardboard, which works really well. It's very nice and soft, and like you say, it's very durable, and it like
Yeah.
springs back if you like move it away. Also, what you've said about the weight, like not only making it easier for little kids to wear it, but also like
Mhm.
it's not going to break as badly if it falls if it's a lighter robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of our focuses, and I was thinking of just having like a metal structure and then felting around it,
Oh yeah.
instead of the PLA. I really like the PLA because it like looks really nice. But we're also thinking of that felted design for the smaller kids, and also for the strap, we're thinking of something that is kind of like a backpack style that kind of goes across the
Hmm.
whole like shoulder. So it's like imagine a shirt kind of just cut off up here, so that's
Mm.
easier for the kids to put on and wear. And so the robot doesn't like rock around and is also more sensory friendly.
Sensory friendly, that's a part that I haven't thought about before. I guess I, like, just try to choose things that feel nice on the body and stuff, but,
Yeah,
what there's extra considerations, I guess, when you're working with all kinds of
working with
children.
kids.
Mm,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. It's been really interesting because, like, as I said, this is my first time doing a wearable robot. So there's just so many
Mhm.
considerations I have, and also how we can make it as customizable as possible for the kids. So it's like, hey,
Yeah.
let's think about the lights and making it so that they can change the color of the lights, the sounds, how we can make it so they can play their own music. Also, we're working with some really awesome Indigenous artists to make decals for the sides of the robots.
Oh!
And we're even working with an awesome Marvel artist, and his work is beautiful. And I'm not going to say too much about it because it's a surprise.
That is so
But
cool!
we're working with some really awesome artists to make the robots resonate more with the kids and to make STEM even cooler. And I also have sparkly decals that I put on all the robots, and they're just beautiful. And they're
Oh, let me show
Ojibwe
you
as
that
well.
close up. There we go. Oh, it's so good!
And all the robots are very unique and special to each kid. And so, yeah, that's something that we've been thinking a lot about, and just, structure and design. I'm very much an electrical engineering person. So when it comes to like material science stuff, there's a lot
Mm.
that I've been learning and a lot that I don't know. So it's been really cool to kind of learn more about.
And where are you going to learn that kind of stuff? Sorry, and where are you
Oh,
going to learn
what'd you say?
that
You
kind
cut
of
out a second.
materials kind of stuff? Yeah.
So I pester people. The simple answer. I just DM people and I ask them a ton of questions. If I notice they're doing something that I want to learn more about. That's how I've made most of my friends, actually, is just by hopping in their DMs and saying, hey, how do you do that? The worst thing they can do is not answer me. So I
Mm.
just go for it.
Awesome. Um, and you've mentioned that like you love PLA because of all the different colors, and of course that's an advantage of felt as well. Um, and there's so many different ways that you can go with that, but with the fabric and stuff. Okay, so another question. So you've mentioned that you have an Arduino Uno and a Circuit Playground Express inside of these. Is this correct?
Yes. Yep.
So do they talk to each other at all, or are they independent systems that like live inside the
They're
same body?
independent systems. They're
Ah.
independent systems just out of ease, for the programming for the kids. I also have a circuit where the little Adafruit like ring light is included. I
Mm,
can't remember what it's called, but it's similar lighting to the playground, but it's not its own little, microcontroller.
mm.
I brought in the playgrounds though, just because of how simple they are. You can stick a battery on them; they're ready to go.
There's
The
like a
coding
drag and drop
platform.
interface for them
There,
as
yeah, I was
well.
gonna say there's a drag and drop platform. It's so easy for the kids, and it's really easy for them to customize right away and see results just immediately. And so that's why I chose those for kind of our prototypes and also some of the gifts that we're giving out and sending to educators and to students and things, because we
Mm.
send everything out for free. So that's why we chose a circuit playground. Also, because I'm a little biased, I think they're very fun. I think they're very cool.
I also love those. I think they're just a great little board. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. Uh, right, there you go.
They're so
It's no
fun.
longer
They're
in my
always sold out
bookmarks.
though,
Oh,
probably because
because they're
I
so
keep
good.
buying them.
Yeah, they gotta keep up. Adafruit, we love these. Make more of them, please. Yeah, just
Yeah,
a
they're so nice,
wonderful, simple
and
little
you
microcontroller.
you can control servos from them and everything. And so a lot of the projects I do with the kids are based from that. It's just so simple. And it's a great way to take coding kind of hands on, because a lot of coding instruction for kids is just done on a browser. And that's just not fun for the kids. They want to see and hold things and make things work. And so that's why I'm such a firm believer in robots and kids building things, because they should be able to see the results of, you know, their circuit drawings. They should be able to see the results of their code. And so I think that's a really great option. But yeah, it isn't the most affordable option, which is why I would like to see at some point maybe one like scaled down a bit that costs a little bit less or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how are you powering them? Do they each have like an individual LiPo or?
The little battery packs, yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah, and they
So,
have a lot of them have little hooks on them. What is it? Like you can just wear them if you want to. So I like that too.
yeah. Let's talk about another robot. How about
Yeah,
there's
there's so
Toysy
many to
Robot.
choose from.
I know, I really wanna each one of them has its own little personality and its own
It does.
sort of extra, purpose notes on it, so I would love to hear about, you know, as
Yeah.
many of them as
This
possible
is
and just
20.
yeah.
And 20 is one of my favorite bots. What's cool about 20 is that it's actually made with like a cereal box. You can see my demented Furby one right there. That was my favorite. It
Those
terrifies
little eyes.
everyone. I know I meant for it to be a frog, but it is not a frog. It is my I remember my therapist, she's like, it looks like a Furby on drugs. And I was like, you know, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I have it over there actually. But the robot's actually open source. I was getting so many requests for Ecker. I was like, it is time to make one that is open source, people can make on their own. So this is kind of like a next step to Ecker. That's like made out of cereal box and has a 3D printed chassis. And so I have all the materials needed to like start making a robot right now. So like the circuit diagram, the code, the CADs, stuff like that. So that was mostly to take pressure off of me.
Yeah.
For the manufacturing process. And if you scroll back to the top, that doodle there is actually one that I did at the very top. I did that one, but also the one at the very top too.
Uh-huh. Oh, no
Yeah.
way! This is a gorgeous,
So,
image.
oh, thank you. All the stickers and art that we have, including the poster behind me, is all done by me. And the goal behind that was to create representative art for all of the students, and so that they could see themselves reflected in, you know, science, tech, engineering, art, and math, and see themselves reflected in robotics, because that, you know, doesn't really happen. If you Google like STEAM coloring sheets, you're going to find a lot of white male scientists. It's like not every student looks like that. So we should, you know, work to create beautiful art that represents the students I work with in my community. And I'm actually going to flip my camera around if I can do that. Can I do that? I don't know if I can do that. But these are all my robots right
Oh
here
my
that I've been
gosh!
working on. So many robots.
So you built these all
But
by hand and then ship them out?
yes, I build them all by hand. A lot of the prints are sent from donors and things, but
Oh, cool.
I print a lot of them as well, and I order all the stuff and then I solder everything. But see, all these stickers are ones that I made.
Ah,
If you
this is
can see, kind
brilliant.
of.
I knew
But
that
oh, go ahead.
I knew that you were building robots, I didn't know that you were a visual artist as well. And your
I
sense
do
of
not
color is
consider.
so wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I do not consider myself an artist. My mom is an artist. I consider
Psh.
myself a doodler.
No way!
But
You're
I
literally a
also
professional
did
artist.
this. Oh, I appreciate that. But I did this one right here.
That's so good.
And I did this one right here. I did
Amazing.
these. And a lot of the posters. Oh, I also did. My shop is a mess right now, but I also did these, if you can see them. Woo.
I would love to see can
And
people buy these posters?
oh no, I just make them.
Oh my gosh. I I would love to have some of these as, like, on my wall as well. This is so good.
And
Oh
what's
my
really
gosh.
cool
Your graphic
is
design
that
is way better than mine, I'm gonna be honest.
oh, you're sweet. But see, I love them so much.
Oh my gosh.
They're so cute. And I've been doodling for a while now, and I was like, you know, it's not fair that the kids don't get to see art of themselves. And
Mm.
so whenever we bring these to conventions and stuff, they get taken in minutes. We weren't expecting that when we started out. But yeah, I have this one's my favorite, I think, the maker one.
Mm.
And also
Yeah, and that's that
robots are my
same.
superpower.
Oh, it's so good.
And we make tiny little stickers to go on the robots themselves.
I'm flipping
And
out. I'm
so,
sorry. I just can't. It's so good.
and these right here, I have 105 of them, or maybe 120. I need to recount. But I have to make 100 more. And then
Mm.
these are all my motors. I have 800 in there,
Wow.
which is the most motors I've ever had at once. And we were finally able to afford, which was insane for me. It's really nice to be able to have donations and be able to afford to make the robots and buy stock of things. I
Mm-hmm.
also have this that my sister made. It's a little robot in a fanny pack. And the fanny
That's so
pack's
good.
by an awesome Indigenous artist.
Mm.
And my mom made this ribbon skirt here.
Mm. That's a beautiful skirt. I've seen that in
Oh,
that
thank you.
some of the photos that you post. Yeah. Ah, wow.
Yeah. And then I also just got sent this, which is a painting of myself and my students, which is really cool.
Ah, cool.
By SolidWorks.
Fan art.
And I was like, oh my
Beautiful.
gosh, it's me. And then a bunch of cool chassis. I got sparkly ones. Hold on. They're so
Yes.
cool. Look at these. Like, you can kind of see it. I'm
Oh yeah,
imagining you
totally.
can see it. But, and then
Can
this is the
totally see
other
that.
art that I have up.
You have the coolest hardware studio that I think I've ever seen.
See, this is the mess that I have going on right now.
That just means it's a real studio. Come on.
That is true.
You mentioned that sometimes people will print and send you robot chassis, which kind of takes presumably
Yes.
some of the load off of you. How do people get involved
Yes.
with that?
So we have like a 3D printing portal and like ways to volunteer on our website. I think it's under the volunteer button and like ways to get involved.
Oh.
Normally people just send us an email and they're like, hey, we got an open printer today. And I'm like, haha, do I have some work for you? So I just send people the CADs and they start printing. And that we usually pay for them to ship it to us. And so, yeah, that's normally how we're able to get our orders done. We've also expanded recently into manufacturing. So like Craft Cloud and those different types of things. So basically it's like you get connected with a bunch of manufacturers who put out a bid on an order. We had never done that before. So we're still waiting to see if it turns out okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, best of luck with that.
I'm slightly nervous because I have 500 components coming.
Oh my gosh.
The unit prices are relatively high, but I mean, if it's the difference between getting an order out and not, then you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. So I found the donate button on the website. I haven't yet found the volunteer one, but we'll find that, and everyone can dig around and pull it up themselves. It's a really wonderful website full of lots of information about how to get involved, how to keep up with you, and things like that. And you mentioned multiple times on this website that a lot of these robots are built out of recycled PLA, and I think that's a
Yes.
huge part of what I'd like to see in the future of robotics. And it also ties into this one that's featured largely in your profile pic. So can you tell us about the Biobots?
Yeah, so Biobots is a new invention I've been working on. It's actually funded by Verizon, which is super cool. And they're biodegradable robotics components made out of plant-based material. And I'm working on ways to figure out, to expand beyond just putting them in a mold and just getting the shape from that, but also a way to extrude the paste and have it harden into a shape. So kind of let's look at additive manufacturing and ways that we could possibly make the maker community and the 3D printing community a more environmentally sustainable one. And that's something that I think a lot of us maybe have a challenge with sometimes. It's like, let's make stuff, and maybe not always think about, hey, what's the impact of this? What materials are we making it out of? How are we able to recycle these materials? Are these materials biodegradable? What does that mean? And so I feel like as makers, as engineers, as inventors, we have a responsibility to create things that are not going to last in the world beyond us, and things that create more beauty in the earth than harm. And so that's a
Mm.
very hard question to ask, and that's a very hard thing to work with, because it's like you need to balance durability with
Mm.
sustainability. You need to balance things like making sure something is won't get soaked with water, and making sure that it's not going to just crumble. That's a really hard thing to balance when you're using like biodegradable materials. You also have to think about, hey, I'm making this out with a mold. What's the mold made out of? How
Yeah.
many products can I make with the mold before I have to get rid of the mold? So those are all questions that you have to ask yourself when you're working on things like mass manufacturing, you're working on sustainability. And it's something I think we all have to think about in our daily lives. Like, hey, just because this is recyclable, am I actually recycling it?
Yeah.
Can the places that I'm sending it to, like the recycling facilities, actually handle this? Because a lot of recycling facilities cannot handle everything that they're sent, and end up throwing a lot of things away, or they are not able to properly sort things. Something I didn't know until recently is that a lot of colored plastic doesn't get recycled.
Huh.
So at many of the recycling plants, I guess they're called, they use lights to kind of shine a light through the objects going on a conveyor belt. And if the light passes through, then it's like, oh, it's glass or it's clear plastic, and we can recycle that. Because recycling is a very, they make a lot of money off of it. So they can sell and re-dye those plastics. But colored plastic, you can't really re-dye that as easily, and you can't resell that as easily. So a lot of that gets thrown away even if you recycle it. So it's about making those decisions when you're designing things and thinking, hey, what's happening with this afterward? But it's really hard to think about. But yeah, I've been working on the Ecker Biobots through a program with Verizon, which has been really cool, and also VentureWell and the Clinton Foundation. So that's been really fun.
Awesome. And on this one, you do have, well, you got that information about the Verizon partnership and the VentureWell partnership, and then also down here, the action you can
Yes.
volunteer, materials funding, or your time to help bring the work to more youths. Email if you want to be involved.
Yes.
Media inquiries. You also have speakers. People
Yes.
can
We talk.
you talk.
We talk a lot. Yeah, if you scroll down, hold
Uh-huh.
on. If you scroll down, we have some examples of like the type of talks that we do. And I think you froze for a second there. I'm not sure if it's me or if it's you.
Um,
But yeah.
it looks fine on my end, so it's hard to tell,
We
but
speak like
keep
every
going.
single week on Yeah, we speak like every single week on things like robotics and environmental sustainability and design, diversity and representation. It is really awesome. I love to be able to just talk about robots all the time. But yeah, we are up for hire if people are interested in that.
Awesome. Plus you're just all over every medium here. You've also got a podcast that you're
Yes,
doing.
it's an environmental podcast.
Ah, and we have a comment from a viewer, Boyce. This is unfortunately so true.
Okay.
It's heartbreaking how little of what gets sent to the recycling centers actually gets recycled. And I think that, there's this multi-pronged approach that of course like in the traditional triangle, right? You've got like reduce, reuse, recycle, and
Right.
we focus a lot on the recycling one because it's easier to do that than to consume less. But then when we
Yes.
if you're prototyping using like this stuff, if you can take your own waste and like recycle that, take the cardboard like you're doing and break it down into a pulp that you can use,
Hmm.
even in like some kind of extrusion or 3D printing medium, or like
Hmm.
people sell these like uh, group or home recycling machines where you can like shred your plastic. There's all these tutorials. You just like put
I
plastic in a
want one
blender and extrude it.
so badly. So
Right?
badly.
It seems like the perfect thing for like maker spaces to have, to be like little community recycling centers or something. Oh my gosh. It'd be amazing.
Mhm. I totally
What kind
agree.
of
The recycling industry is oversaturated for sure.
yeah. And maybe like that's one of the places where we can decentralize. I don't know. um, do you work
Yeah,
with
for sure.
in-person labs at all or maker
I
spaces?
do. I do. And this actually right here is a classroom and not just where we make robots.
Ah!
We have kids over all the time, not as much with COVID. We kind of introduced a hybrid model where we ship the robots out and then we teach classes virtually. It is really hard to teach kids how to wire robots online, but we managed to do it, which always surprises me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought we would be able to do this. But we have classes here, we put on events, we've done things like the Maker Faire and all that. But yeah, no, I really miss having classes. We used to have classes here like every single day. I remember in January of, I think it was 2020. I don't even know. Time is passing so fast now. We put on like 20 classes in 1 month, which was crazy. I was like, wow, I had no idea we put on that many until after the month passed. I'm like, did we really do that? But our team is from all around the United States. So we work together virtually most times. So a virtual model honestly works for us best. But I like to see the kids in person. It is more fun that way.
And when it comes to teaching virtually, you said that there's lots of challenges of like teaching kids how to wire something remotely. What are your tips
Mhm.
for people who are holding like remote hardware workshops to make that easier?
I really like to see people involve the entire family. So when I build robots and I build kits, in mind, I design the robots for kids to build with their parents. I
Hmm.
think that is really important for families to learn together and to create things together. And that's the type of learning I want to see. I was homeschooled and I did a lot of learning with my mom. And I think that has really shaped how I see the world today. And I just want to see that happen more. So I suggest when you're creating stuff when you're teaching classes, get as many people involved in the family as you can, and have a daddy daughter robot day or something like that, and create together. It's a really great way too. Is if the kid doesn't necessarily know what's going on or is having trouble tracking with the lesson. A parent can help guide them in the right direction. The parents are also usually learning at the same time as well. One of the first classes I ever taught, or I guess I didn't teach, I shipped robots out to, was actually a daddy daughter event. And it was so cool. It was through this one nonprofit, I think it's STEMworlds
Hmm.
and STEMworld City. And they put on a class for fathers and their daughters. And it was just so special to be able to see that and to see the kids and their parents building those robots together, and it makes the process so much easier, so much fun. The kids still learning a lot. But yeah, I really like that. Or even kids and their older siblings or something like that. I think like peer-to-peer mentorship is really important and involving different age groups of kids. Really bringing in as much of the family and the community as possible, I think is really important. I don't think you should just say, hey, today we're going to teach just sixth graders. We're going to bring the sixth graders in by
Mm.
themselves. I don't know. I see a lot of STEM programs nowadays kind of take kids out of their communities and teach them there.
Mm.
I don't like that. I feel like we should be able to teach the kids in their communities and with their families and have everyone involved. And so that's a shift I would really like to see in STEM education and something that I work towards and I would suggest everyone else works towards as well.
Amazing. I love it. I've got like goosebumps. You clearly have you have so much experience with this. It's such a wealth of yeah, experience that you're drawing on here, and you're really pulling out the things that seem most important about improving the way that electronics is taught, that science and
It's
technology are
important.
taught. Yeah.
It's so important. We're in a world now where skills in STEM are just so important in literally every single industry. It doesn't matter if someone is, a graphic designer, or if they're a robotics designer, or if there's someone in the medical field. Having skills and knowing how to use computers, how to navigate different softwares, even things like how to use a keyboard. These are not skills that every kid is taught. I think sometimes we have an idea that every kid is taught this, or every kid just has an iPad, or every kid just knows how to use these things. And that's just
Mm.
not the truth. A lot of these classes, a lot of these resources are not accessible to everyone. And often they are not accessible, especially to Indigenous youths. They're not in Indigenous languages. They're not translated. They're not built for the family. And I don't like that at all. I want to see these resources be more accessible, and I want to see more kids be able to use these resources, because when we do not make sure that technical education is equitable, what happens is that the kids who have a lot of resources and who have a lot of privilege and who have a lot of funding get very far ahead, and the kids who do not have those opportunities get stuck and they fall behind. And what ends up happening is that when it comes time for jobs, when it comes time for going to college and things, there's so much catch up to do, and there's so much learning that has to be done, and there's so many opportunities that the kids can miss out on. And I don't want to see that happen anymore. And so I even think about myself. There was a lot I wasn't taught when I was homeschooled, and I had to play a huge catch up when I got to high school, and I'm still playing a lot of that catch up now. And it's a catch up that other, people my age don't have to play, and so they have gotten opportunities that I haven't gotten. And so I really just want to see everyone be able to access STEM, on kind of like a baseline, and have those opportunities there, which is why affordable robots to me is really important. And I want to stop seeing kits sold for $500. Why is this necessary?
Yeah.
So yeah, that is my ultimate goal, is making STEM less of a commercial thing and more of an affordable, accessible, community-based thing. And yeah, it is really hard to see though. Like, the reason why I created Ecker is because I was working with robotics teams, and my students couldn't afford the $500 robotics kits. Neither could I, right? And I was like, oh my goodness. And it was required to participate for the robotics competition. And it's like, okay, not only are we bringing the kids out into these environments, like these robotics competitions that are not always safe. For me, it wasn't safe. It's an environment that's not built for the kids, and specifically kids who are minorities, right? And so we're creating this space that isn't always safe, doesn't always consider the kids, and then we are requiring them to buy really expensive things to participate. And it's like, what's the likelihood of them getting a lot out of this, even if they're physically there? Not a lot.
It's like that
and
pipeline.
So yeah.
Yeah, people talk so
Go
much
ahead.
about the pipeline where it's like we've got to get people interested in this. We've got to like show it to the kids and show them that they can do it. But
Yeah.
then like when you put them in a
No,
toxic
it has to be
environment,
beyond that.
yeah,
It's not enough to say, hey, you can build robots. So what? So what, they can build robots. I think
if you make
a
it a
lot of
horrible
kids, they
experience
know
for
this.
them,
Right. They're not going to want to do it. And so for me, I have a lot of educators come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, should I just show the kids robots, and how should I do this? And I'm like, well, what is your, who are teaching the kids? Like, a lot of people will start diversity initiatives and bring STEM to the kids, but then the educators don't reflect the kids that they're working with. And it's like, how is that inspiring? How are the kids going to
yeah,
want to go out and pursue robotics and pursue STEM if they don't see anyone like them pursuing it? And it's crazy to me, because they'll message me and they're like, hey, will you promote our STEM event? And I'm like, all your speakers are white. Why would that inspire my students to want to be there? How is that going to give them, how is that going to make them want to be there, want to pursue STEM, if they're not represented? And
absolutely.
unfortunately, this is a very controversial take. A lot of people get angry at me when I say that. I'm like, no, come on, like, seriously, every kid should be able to see themselves represented in the tech space, and to be able to see themselves represented across all industries. But it's insane to me how heated people get about it in a negative way, and how, if you haven't experienced it, you wouldn't know. You would have
Yeah,
no
and
idea how hard it can be.
yeah, and you've mentioned this compounding effect that happens when people don't have access to this stuff early on. And then also, people assume that because something's online, because it's open source, that it's accessible automatically, and that therefore
No,
everyone.
no,
Yeah.
no, we have
Um,
to think about things like Wi-Fi. We have to think about things like the language that the materials are written in. We have to think about, how something is written. A lot of the kids I've worked with in robotics can't necessarily read.
mm,
And so it's like, hey, if we're going to be teaching kids robotics and doing this, like, there's stuff we need to teach before then. And we want to make sure that when we're teaching kids how to CAD, we're not giving them a sheet full of written instructions. There's just many accessibility factors that come from when you're working with different communities. Every community has a different need. Every kid has a different need. And so when you're working on STEM, it's not a one size fits all type thing. It's a community based thing. And so, yeah, I want to see people focus first on their communities before expanding to others and think about the needs of their own community first.
Absolutely. And you address part of this, not having to read like necessarily a whole page of instructions, but you have this podcast, you have videos, you have all these different ways that people with different learning styles and different experiences can engage with it. And by getting their families involved, of course, you can make it so that it's more accessible to each individual person.
Yeah,
So
I think it's important. We have a lot of progress to do. Of course, we're a small organization, so there's a lot of growth to happen. For me personally, I'm neurodivergent, so it's like these resources, they're needed. They're very needed. But yeah, I just want to see as many kids as possible. The mission is actually very simple. It's in the name of the robot. Every kid gets a robot. It's every kid accessing these opportunities. And when I say every kid gets a robot, I mean I want to see every kid access these opportunities at an equal level. And I specifically want to uplift my own community. I want to uplift Indigenous youth. I want to uplift queer youths. And I think that's really important.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, you're such an amazing person. So there's another robot that, speaking of, tech in the real world, we're not divorced from the world that we live in. Auto Oscar is this one that was designed by Vinay Guzman-Sekar, who saw challenges in the world around her. And could you tell us a little bit about this project? It's also on the site.
This robot you see here, Auto Oscar, was designed by my 14-year-old mentee. She actually co-hosted a podcast with me, and she is awesome. She just began high school, and she's already making robots and prototyping things and running a podcast with me, and she runs another podcast. And it's just so inspiring to see, the students go on and create their own things and go on and create their own projects. And that's what I want to see in STEM. Is I want to see kids emboldened to create their own solutions and create solutions for what they're passionate about. That's all I ever want. But this is a little baby prototype here, and the robot picks up recyclables and like off of school floors. And so she noticed how a lot of kids leave like bottles and things just lying around on the floor. And she's like, what if we could get a robot to pick it up? Not necessarily to replace the kids picking up themselves, but to make them aware that it's a problem and to want to inspire action. And so the robot talks, its little head turns, and right now it's in the prototyping phase, but it is so cool. And when it rests, what's really awesome about it is that it can actually turn into like a recycling bin for a classroom. So it can like be the, little shovel thing can be put up and you can put recyclables into it. And so it's just really cool to see the kids create these amazing things. It's so inspiring to me because I, even after I invented a robot, I did not think I was capable of, engineering or having a space in design, in manufacturing, in electrical engineering. It took me a year until after I invented a robot to think, oh, wow, maybe I am an inventor. I always heard a lot of negative comments from people like, oh my gosh, it's so simple. I'm like, well, that is the point. But they would always say these disparaging things and, say, oh, you shouldn't be in engineering. I had a math professor tell me girls aren't as good at math. When you hear those things again and again,
in this day and age,
it gets to you though. And it can really take you down. And it is so hard to hear those things day after day, even from people who are well-meaning sometimes. They don't always realize what they're saying and the effect that it has. And so
people say that they're joking and therefore you should just get a thick skin. It's not real. It's a joke.
And I have to say, ever since leaving school and working on my own organization and working with a team of people who believe in the same things I do, it has been such a relief. It is so nice to be in a space where you're respected and loved, and I think everyone deserves that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, every kid deserves a robot. I love this. And you're really bringing up these questions around, like, we're led to see tech as neutral, but it's like, really, there's these questions about, like, who gets to build the robots? What purposes are you designing it for? What materials are you making it out of? And all these decisions that go into what is positive technology. Oh my gosh. I have another question for you.
Yes.
So you've designed, at this point, multiple robots for interacting with children, and kids are interacting on the programming and design level, but they're also interacting with them person to robot. And I'm curious
Mhm.
what insights you have about designing a robot that's going to be interacting with children, like personality wise, behavior wise. Obviously, you talked
Mhm.
about them dropping them a lot, but yeah.
So I read a lot of research papers on how kids can kind of resonate with robots and see human-like qualities in them, and I thought that was really interesting. So when I was designing this, something that we talked about was creating kind of a face that the kids can kind of look at and kind of recognize. It looks a little bit minion-esque, which was not intentional, but now that now seeing it, I'm like, oh no. But the kids are able to recognize it because they've probably seen minions. They've seen little droids, right? They're able to
Mm.
recognize it and they're able to resonate with it. So when kids and even young babies see it, they interact with it. They wave to it. They talk to it. I've seen kids dance with it. So that was something that was really important because the other robots I've created don't really have faces. Like Ecker doesn't really have a face unless you count the motors, and then it kind of looks like a bird. But something that was really important was having a face and then having a face that actually lit up. And something that we're going to be working on in the future is actually integrating AI and eye tracking software. So the robots could maybe even rotate their head with the kid as they move. Having the robots read along books as the kids turn the pages. Those are different things that we really want
Oh, I
to
love that.
integrate into the robots. Mostly AI, which is something I have not really worked with much. So I am so excited to be like learning this. It's so cool to be able to say I want to learn it and then go out and learn it. But yeah, we're also working on a chassis that will make it so these can drive around a little
Oh
bit.
my gosh, that'd be so cute.
So I know,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
I want to go, chase them around. But yeah, so
Look at that.
designing with the kids in mind, for me, it was about having a face and also having the kids be able to decorate them and to be able to have them recognize the robot as a part of their culture. I've never seen an Ojibwe robot before, ever. I'm
Mm.
Ojibwe, right? I've never seen an Ojibwe robot. Like this opportunity here, and so to have an Ojibwe robot is so special. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't, wait to be able to get these bots out to all my cousins and to all my relatives and to have them see the robot. Another thing is, and I have a box full of wheels here.
Mm.
But another thing is letting the kids design their own components. So these were actually designed. This is an Ecker wheel, and this
Oh,
was
that's
designed
awesome.
by a fourth grader. And hold on, I have another one somewhere. This one as well.
Oh
So
my
these were
gosh.
actually designed by students in the SolidWorks app for kids. Then we took it into SolidWorks. We made sure that actually would fit the specs that we needed to fit on the robot. But we were able to get the kids designing and thinking about wheel designs and thinking about how they can make their own wheels in a design that when it spins, it looks cool. But yeah, so it's not just about designing and having your design, stay the same forever. It's also thinking about how you can get kids involved in the mechanical engineering process and thinking about how you can get the kids involved in more than just the end product but also a part of it as well. But yeah, isn't that they're so cute. Like
That
they're
little
so cute.
ninja one is so I mean, to me, it looks like a shuriken or something, but, uh,
It's
like, that's an advanced design for a 4th grader. Like, even
right.
for, anyone who's, like, getting started in 3 that's really cool.
I suggest looking into SolidWorks app for kids. It's a free resource,
Mm.
and the kids can. Usually, what I do is I kind of start out with like a shape. So I made like the circles for them, and then they were able to put their designs in the center. And then we talked about making sure that they fit within, the circle, making sure that the everything fits together. But yeah, it's a really great way to talk about the design process with the kids and be very hands-on and involved. And I also show them cool wheel designs like this. My favorite with the googly eyes.
I love that.
And we even show different designs like these.
Ooh.
And I have so many wheels here. Oh my gosh. I even have the very first wheel I made, which
Huh.
looks a little tragic, but I keep it as an
I
inspiration
think it's
that things
beautiful.
can get better.
I think it's gorgeous. Um, oh man, I'm just getting this random, like, really nostalgic feeling because when you rummage around in the robot parts bin, it sounds so much like Legos or Tinker Toys or something,
It
and it's
does.
kind of
I
it
love
really does.
Legos. Actually, my best friend got me this. It's a Lego of me
Oh my gosh! That's
and a
so good.
robot,
I wanna make a
right?
tiny
And
little ribbon skirt for it.
I'm holding a screwdriver
That's so
and
good.
I have a scarf on too. I love it. It's like the coolest gift ever.
That
And
is an
it's
amazing
by
gift.
the company Brick Yourself, which
Ah.
that's creatively named.
This is so amazing. I'm gonna share a bunch of these links again. Some of them in the description, some of them we're gonna go through again before we wrap up. But is there anything you'd like to toss in there as a closing thought or something we didn't cover? Actually, I'll ask you again in a second because first there's this. You just did this book initiative.
Yes.
You just you. This is an ongoing thing, right? But you just did a 10K
Yeah.
in 1 week initiative or 10 days.
We raised 12.6K in 10 days to
Wow.
bring books to Navajo youth in Shiprock, New Mexico. It was run by my mentor, who also co-designed this awesome little robot here. And we were like, is 10K in 10 days possible? I don't know, but it was possible. And so yesterday we bought 644 books by Navajo authors to give to the kids. And we bought 644 books from Selena Bookshelf. Whoa,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. But I really believe that it's important to make sure youths have representative books. And Dr. Josh, his @ on Instagram is NDNSLP. And he always has really great book recommendations and resources that I suggest checking out. And also on our website, we have all of the book recommendations that he has on the website where you can go and purchase them right away. Yep, that's Josh. His stuff is so amazing. The work he does is so impactful. And yeah, he was the genius behind this fundraiser, and he's the one who's going to be he picked the books out. He's going to be getting the books, distributing them. Last time we did this fundraiser in the summer of 2020, I think we raised 40K. He got a truck sent to him full of books, and so now
Wow.
they're probably going to send a truck again too. And I'm just really excited to see all the kids get the books. We're sending them out for free, and I think it's really special. So I'm really excited to see that happen.
That's so amazing. And you mentioned your other collaborator. It was something like
It's
Dr.
Virtual Flat CAD.
Virtual Flat CAD. That's what, okay. I'll
Yes.
pull that up.
His stuff is so cool. He's so talented. We met through SolidWorks, like their user group community when I was 17. They had me give my very first keynote. I had no idea what I was doing. I showed up. I had no slides. I didn't even bring a robot. I just came as is and started talking. And they gave me a lot of the opportunities that springboarded me to where I'm at now. So I'm very thankful for that.
Amazing. I'm gonna drop them a follow. Yes.
Yeah, his stuff is cool.
So coming back around full circle, people can follow you on Twitter, Instagram. There's also the Steam connection on both of these platforms. You got this podcast. I was just looking through there's some really cool stuff about like sustainable packaging and stuff about Auto Oscar, and depending on any medium that people prefer, you can learn about robots in that medium. You can go donate for books. You can help build the robots. All kinds of good stuff. Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of actionable items. We can use all talents and skills if people are interested.
Including this printing portal that you talked about where people can send you 3D prints. So good. And they can hire you as speakers. So much going on. Oh, thank you so much for joining us.
Always a lot going on. And thank you for giving me a space to be able to talk about the robots. It's so awesome. You've been, killing it in the wearable robotics game for as long as I can remember. And so it's very inspiring to me. And you are one of the people who inspired me to try making a wearable robot. I did not think it was possible, but I appreciate it. And it's just so great. I think we need more people making wearable robots. And it's just such a, cool way to, express yourself and to express what you're interested in. I think it's awesome.
I love it. And you're bringing it to a whole new level with the decals and all these like attachments and stuff. Because I only ever make like one of one. Yeah, I only make like one or two of them. And even our friend Jay, who joined us for a second, makes a ton of different robots. But
I actually have one of his here.
Oh!
One of his robots here. I'll show you real quick. Can you see it? Kind of.
Oh yeah, you got a little. I forget what those ones are called.
He sent me a pink one.
Oh, that's perfect.
Isn't that cool?
And it matches your.
I love it. The kids love it too.
And with the fact that you're building hundreds of these, you're just like adding so much extra to it and like bringing that whole customizability angle with everyone being able to make their own one. I love it.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna throw in one thing before we leave. It's
Please.
so weird to me because I always wonder why I had a slight disconnect sometimes from the maker community, and I realized there's a huge difference between making one robot and making thousands of them. And I didn't ever see that disconnect until then, but I think it is so cool to be able to say, hey, these robots that the makers are making, they are art. They are beautiful, beautiful designs. How can we take this and how can we make more of them? And I think that's such an interesting discussion between, product designers and between people who are inventors and makers, and, seeing the common threads that we all have, and then saying, how can we make things for more people? That to me is an interesting discussion I've only recently been thinking about, so I decided to share.
Amazing. Yes, absolutely. And we have a feedback from Axox. I came for the robots and stayed for the social inclusivity, fab art, and environmentalism. Such an inspiring talk. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, of course, Danielle. I can't wait to see you in person again someday. It'd be amazing.
Yes.
And yeah, everyone have an awesome rest of your day. Ciao. Miigwech.